Hi everyone. So today I'm just going to go through with you what you do when you buy a pattern. So if you buy a commercial pattern, it's going to look something like this. So there'll be a picture of on the front of what the thing is. Often there's two views, so you'll see with this pattern you can actually make two different dresses. So they're slightly different. One has pockets, no sleeves, and the other one has sleeves, and I think it has inseam pockets. So when you open your pattern, you will get the instructions. So that's the instructions. And then you'll also get the pattern. So that'll be all folded up. With this pattern, there's actually quite a lot of pieces. So, well, not a lot, but there's two of these sheets. So this is made of tissue paper, and like they're quite tricky, I suppose, to manage because number one, they're really big. So you can see that's like almost the size of a tablecloth. And then also they're made of like really thin tissue. So, you know, they're quite fragile. Now, if the pattern is very creased when you take it out of the packet, as this one is, you can iron, like with a low heat iron, you can iron the pattern just so that there's no creases in it. So the first thing I like to do is to look at the instructions and to see how many pieces that you're going to need to trace off. Because what we need to do is I'll just show you. So each pattern piece comes like that. So say it's hard to see that now, but I'll just show you up here. So there's different ones. So that's an 8, a 10, and it goes up to the highest size, which is an 18 for this pattern. So if I want the size 18, let's say, I'd be cutting around this line. Now, if I want the size 12, which is what I'm going to make, if I cut that out and just use the pattern, it means that I can never use the pattern again and I can't make any of the other sizes. So obviously patterns are kind of expensive. Also, you don't even know if you're going to like the pattern, but you might love it and you might want to make it for make loads of them. You might want to change size. So in order to make that possible, what the best thing to do is to trace off the size. So this is quite time consuming. It's always nice to maybe have a podcast on, and just like this is takes a bit of time. So what I like to do, because obviously the more pattern pieces there are, let's say you're just making a basic top and it has like a front and a back, that's 2 pieces. But this is a dress, so and it's also lined, so there's going to be a front bodice, back bodice, then the same for the lining, and then the front skirt, the back skirt. So and there's a facing and stuff. So if we look here, it just gets you prepared for what you have to do. So you can see I have marked the one I'm going to make the Hattie dress. So it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces. So then I'll go through the pattern and I'll cut out the pieces. I'll trace off the pieces that I need for this pattern. So to do that, I use pattern paper. You can also just use like brown paper, greaseproof paper, because we're going to be putting the pattern over this. So what we're going to do, and I'll show you in a minute, is we're going to lay the pattern down on top of our paper. So we'll have it like this. So see, that's piece number 2, and they're all numbered. And then we're going to use a tracing wheel and we're going to trace around whatever size it is that we want to make. I would recommend going over the line. If you're going to make a 12, maybe trace around that line with the pink marker or some color so that you don't accidentally go into one of the other sizes by mistake. Sometimes it's fine, but sometimes all the lines come together in one part and it can be kind of hard to figure out which line is which. So we will use for that a tracing wheel. So this has like little points on it, so it will make tiny little holes as we trace around the pattern, and then when we take the pattern off, we will have the piece traced off on this with tiny little holes, and we just have to go over them with pencil. So I have already done this for 2 pieces. So you can see it's really important that you mark all the things that are on the pattern. So I have marked what dress it is, what size it is, what piece it is, how many I need to cut out, and then there's other markings here which are for, they might be for buttons, they might be where you're going to attach a collar, this will be where I'm going to attach the lining, and then this is the other one. So it's really important that you add all the markings, because otherwise you're just not going to know what it is. Then you'll see this is like a length and shorten line. So like, let's say if I made that but I had quite a long torso, then this would be the point in the pattern that I'd make it bigger. So that's the first step when you get a pattern. When you figure out your size from the measurements on the back, what you need to do is you need to get a nice big bit of space, get some paper that you're going to trace onto, and then you're going to put your pattern over it and get a tracing wheel. They're really cheap, like you can get them in Vibes and Scribes in Cork, but like they're, I'd say, less than €5. And you're just going around the whole pattern and then putting all the information from the pattern piece on the pattern onto the piece that you've traced off. And then you can tick them off as you go along. I really like when there's less pieces because it's faster, but I think I said I have 7 and I have 2 done, so like that hasn't taken me that long. And then the next step will be to get my material ready, and then it will be laying out the material, putting the pieces on top and cutting it out.